Carolina just offered a brand new contract to Shane Beamer. So Beamer, after a 9-4 season, is getting a deal that will carry him through 2030. The deal will be worth $8 million per year with $100,000 in raises annually. He was going to make about $6.6 million this past year. The deal also includes a $5 million buyout if Beamer leaves South Carolina this season, which drops by $1 million per year due to the contract. So the question that I have is, after going 9-4 this year, losing in the bowl game, but yet still finding a way to get to 9-4, was this the right deal? And honestly, if you say anything other than 100% yes, I have no idea what you're talking about. There are so many reasons why this is just the perfect fit for both what's needed at Willie B and for Beamer long-term. Let's start off with the fact that he's beaten the win total every year since 2023. In 2021, he did it with a reserve quarterback that had already medically retired from football and said, I want to go into coaching. They didn't have a quarterback. They said, hey, Zeb Nolan, can you take a couple reps? Yes, sir. And by the way, they got to 6-6 in the regular season. A year later, they bring in Spencer Rattler, and the culture continues to change. And then a year later, unfortunately, due to injuries, they weren't able to get over the hump. But then this past year, wins to close out the season. He's beaten the win total every single year by at least 2. And he said at the very beginning of the year, you can go ahead and doubt us all you want. You can go ahead and tell us that we're going to finish 11th or 12th or 13th, whatever you have in your preseason rankings, and we already know that you're lying. We know how good we are. Since he's arrived on campus, he has been the absolute epitome of consistency. 29-22 record since taking over the Gamecocks. It's the best record by a South Carolina coach in his first 4 seasons. In his first 4 seasons, he's also played spoiler in the SEC. He knocked out Tennessee and Clemson back-to-back weekends for the college football playoff in 2022. And in both games, they were dominant performances with Spencer Rattler, the offense, and his son identity defensively. You also saw this past year, if Miami wins against Syracuse, they knock Clemson out of the college football playoff conversation. That entire performance that we saw from Cade Klubnik versus Texas, that doesn't exist because they lost a game they desperately needed to win. And the biggest thing of why this is a huge win for South Carolina, there's a new standard set moving into 2025. Beamer's changed the expectations from people down in Columbia, and they know it's possible because it's obtainable. Think about this for a second. For years, South Carolina has been a very proud program. You talk to any Gamecock, anyone that bleeds the garnet and black, they'll tell you straight up, we demand excellence. And you're right. They should. Every college football program should. But a lot of South Carolina fans are saying, we need to get to 10-4. We need to get to 10-2. And it's like, okay, well, if you do that, that's good. But just be okay if you go 6-6 the next year. Well, that's not going to be the case anymore because Shane Beamer has shown you, no, 9 wins is achievable. And by the way, it's achievable with an offensive line that's going through some rebuild, a solid defense, and a brand new quarterback. Well, the offensive line is going to be good next year. The defense is going to go through a slight rebuild, but not enough to where we can question it, and our quarterback's a year older. South Carolina's 2024 season was a wild card. And if you guys remember back in the offseason, I told you the biggest wild card team of next season was going to be the Gamecocks. And the reason why is because I didn't know what to expect. It's like going to a shop bar and spinning the wheel for $5 where you're already going to get a shot, but you have no idea what it's going to be. Sometimes you're lucky and it lands on Jose Cuervo Tequila Silver. That's the A&M performance. That's the performance against Clemson. That's the dominant game against Vanderbilt, where everything that you see clicks for you. This is the version of South Carolina football that's good enough to be a threat in the postseason picture. And then the shot glass can land on Captain Jack's grape-flavored whiskey. That's the Ole Miss performance. That's the game very early on in the season against Old Dominion. That's the game where you kind of had your struggles and lulls against Illinois. The good news is it was a growing campaign. Did losing to Illinois sting at the end of the year and you didn't get to 10 wins? Yeah, a little bit. Could you blame opt-outs, not having Nicky Manwari for the second half? No Kyle Kennard, no Rocket Sanders? Probably. But you felt so high going into that game that the level of depression afterwards, knowing what should have been, it fuels you. Did losing to LSU sting because of one officiating bad play? Which, yes, I'm going to stand on. Nicky Manwari should have been in the end zone, and that should have been enough for South Carolina to punch his ticket to the college football playoff. Absolutely. But also, if Lenore Sellers stays healthy in that game and he doesn't get hurt right before halftime, that's a moot point with this team. They already win that football game for my money, and they punch their ticket to the dozen dance. But that fire that you felt afterwards, knowing that you were wrong, that this shouldn't have happened. We should be right where that team is. We should be talking about the way that Tennessee is, or the way that Texas is, or the way that even Georgia is, because we delivered on our end of the bargain. Well, that's the fire that you want. It's not a fire. It's called standards. Those are standards that are being met by Shane Beamer, and they are expected inside the locker room. They're expected out on the practice field. They're expected in the film room, under the bench squad, under the squat rack, in the classroom, at fan meet and greets. People internally in the building have these now morals and expectations. People who pay tickets and season tickets expect this to happen now. People who come travel from all across the country that go to Willie B for a Saturday night showcase in one of the ravenous atmospheres in Cathedral of Chaos expect this persona moving forward. And that is the standard. SEC Unfiltered is proudly partnered with FanDuel. For the first whistle to the final drive, FanDuel takes the NFL playoffs to the next level because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's $300 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. The FanDuel app gives you everything from live bets, same-game parlays, and so much more. Plus, when you win, you get paid instantly. What's not to love? Just visit FanDuel.com/SECU to join today and get started with $300 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com/SECU. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Must be 21 or older and present in select states. For Kansas, in affiliation with Kansas Star Casino, or 18 plus in DC, present in DC. First online real money wager only. $5 deposit is required. Bonus issue as non-withdrawable bonus bets, which expire 7 days after the receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit fanduel.com/RG. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut or visit ndgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY to New York. All right, back to the show. Yeah, you had some standards underneath Will Muschamp. Not to this capacity. You had some standards set underneath head football coach. Not to this capacity. Steve Spurrier had his moments, but not the way that Shane Beamer does. He also has built an identity, which I think is a really big deal. You hear people talking about buying stock into South Carolina this offseason because what they have returning in Sellers and Stewart. And I'll tell you what, that's a good foundation to have. You throw in Josiah Thompson, you throw in Jalen Kilgore. Those are two other pieces that you look back and say to yourself, man, we got our core four. Nobody can take us down as long as they stay healthy. Sellers' growth from week 1 to week 14 was uncanny. Literally, that happens because if you play with confidence, you play with a pedigree, you play with a mentality, and best of all, you play with a certain approach that you absolutely believe can turn the corner. More importantly, here's the best part. He gained that confidence because of what he was being taught inside that locker room. Who was teaching him? Shane Beamer at the front of the class, preaching the sermon left and right, telling everybody what you need to follow if you want to be a part of the Gamecock mentality. And he's going to come back next year and he's going to play even better. From that moment, in the Texas A&M game with the 2 rushing touchdowns and the ability to make defenders miss left and right. Until the end of the year, there was nobody more exciting than number 16 on the field. And Stewart's one of the rising stars, and by the season's end, he looked like a player that you could easily say, son, I need you to come up and make a 4th down stop. And he is licking his chops and saying, how quickly do you want me to get it done, sir? Well on his way to becoming a first-round pick. That's culture. When you have young players who are unafraid to deliver in the biggest moments of the year, that's what you see, and that's what we call culture. That's why we say to ourselves, hey, South Carolina, 9-win season next year, it's possible? Absolutely it is. Because when you have the right mentality inside the building and everyone is breathing the same type of oxygen and they're all sucking in the hype that is 2025, you can't understand how much better it is. But the biggest reason why this deal is worth it for South Carolina has nothing to do with the Norris Sellers, has nothing to do with Dylan Stewart, has nothing to do with the players that are coming on in. It has everything to do with Shane Beamer. He fits Columbia. See, when you go to bigger programs like Alabama or LSU or Texas, Ohio State, Michigan, Florida, Oregon, they can sell themselves. What they have with the resources, what they have with state-of-the-art complexes, what the culture is, what the history of the program says. They can sell themselves to a 5-star recruit. They just need a coach. They need somebody who can be calling the right plays, running the right X's and O's, and putting themselves in a position to where they will achieve greatness. When you're at a place like South Carolina, Ole Miss, West Virginia, Virginia Tech, Missouri, Utah, Syracuse, you don't need a coach. You need a personality. You need somebody who lives and breathes the identity of the program, somebody who is willing to put their life on the line to sell that school because if they believe in the morals and values. That's Shane Beamer. Every single time he opens his mouth and talks about Gamecock football, whether he's frustrated, whether he's excited, whether he's joyous, whether he's mad at the world, he means it. It's not a charade. It's not him trying to sell a player to come on in. This is what you're all about. When he speaks, people listen because they know that he's telling the truth. Every single little detail about a program or about what he envisions for his school or what needs to change, he is fully investing and he's taking ownership for, which a lot of coaches say they do, but I don't know how many will. And it's changing that culture and players are buying into it. And the best part is that when you look at the players that they're bringing in, they have to fit a certain brand of Gamecock football. A little bit unorthodox, maybe a little bit weird, definitely filled with fuel and anger and the hunger and desire to be better and a determination to silence the critics. And if you don't fit that mold, you don't belong out in Cola, South Carolina. You don't belong anywhere near Willie B. And you look at the players being brought in via the portal this year. A lot of people are talking about how there are big-time names going to Texas A&M and LSU. And then you hear about South Carolina. And what's the thing that you hear from those that work in the industry? They fit the culture. They fit the bill. Those are the type of players that Shane Beamer needs to attack. And guess what? They'll be right back at square one in 2025. And lo and behold, we'll be talking about them as probably a 9-10 win team once again. It doesn't matter who are the players. And by the way, a lot of these players, I might also add in, they had offers from major schools. Rasul Faison was not only getting looked at by Columbia, South Carolina. Gabriel Brownlow-Dindy was not only getting looked at by those in Willie B. Brandon Cisse was not getting looked at by only Shane Beamer for an SEC school. There were other schools that want to go after it. Players want to go play for Shane Beamer. I think that's the biggest thing. The culture there is second to none, and they want to learn Beamer ball. And there's also a fact of proof and paternal belief that translates into on-field results. A lot of people get sold mumbo-jumbo left and right about what can work, what's supposed to work, what's supposed to turn the corner, how I can get on the field. No, Shane Beamer's got to prove a concept, especially for players that you're still trying to develop. Nick Harbor. Remember him? Well, now he's wide receiver 1 going into 2025. Jalen Kilgore. Now learn how to play multiple positions in his secondary. Lenoris Sellers, kind of an unorthodox quarterback, 6'3", wears the rec specs, but when you give him out in the open field, best of luck trying to bring him down. You need a coach like this. Tennessee did this a few years ago when they brought in Josh Heupel. Guess what? When they landed him, they made the college football playoff, and they've had 2 10-win seasons. Ole Miss needed this right type of culture. Guy on the outside, brash mentality, looking on in. Guess what? Lane Kiffin has 3 10-win seasons, and he's finished in the top AP, top 25 4 different times. Neither school regrets handing out that paycheck, and neither school regrets handing out that extension to keep them away from other teams that might be willing to poach them. And by the way, Beamer's like the 9th highest paid coach in salary. He is worth every single penny and perhaps more down in Cola. The only question is, do you believe that they can turn the corner and get any better in 2025? And then what you have to ask yourself is, okay, well, what's going to be the new asking price to keep Shane Beamer around for the long term?